The sky turned dark as basketball star Michael "Big Shaq" Richardson headed home after a long practice. His body felt tired, but his mind was still going over all the plays they had worked on that day. The team had a big game coming up, and as team captain, he carried a lot of pressure on his broad shoulders. Rain started falling, light at first, then getting heavier. The driver turned the wipers on as they passed through a nearly empty supermarket parking lot. Most stores had closed for the night, leaving just a few cars scattered around the large concrete space. That's when Big Shaq spotted something unusual. Under a flickering streetlight sat an old blue sedan with windows fogged up from the inside. Most people wouldn't have noticed or would have just kept going, but something made him look twice. Through the foggy glass, he could make out movement. Someone was definitely inside. "Hold up, James," Big Shaq said to his driver. "Can we slow down a bit?" As they drove closer, he saw a woman gently rocking what looked like a small bundle in her arms. A baby. The car wasn't running. No exhaust in the cold air. No lights on. Just a woman and a baby sitting in a parked car in the rain. His security guard, Rick, immediately spoke up. "Boss, we should keep moving. We don't know what's going on there." But Big Shaq couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. This wasn't someone waiting for someone else. This wasn't a quick stop. The way the woman held that baby, the way she kept looking around nervously, his gut told him these people had nowhere else to go. "Circle back," he told James firmly. "Sir, I really don't think," Rick started. "Just circle back," Big Shaq repeated, his voice calm but leaving no room for argument. The luxury SUV made a wide turn, headlights sweeping across the parking lot as they approached the sedan again. Now Big Shaq could see more clearly, bags and belongings piled in the back seat, clothes hanging from hooks above the windows like makeshift curtains. "Pull up next to them," he instructed. "But leave some space. Don't want to scare them." The driver did as told, positioning their vehicle about 15 feet from the sedan. Rain drummed on the roof as Big Shaq stared at the car, thinking about what to do next. "Sir, please let me handle this," Rick insisted, always protective. "At least let me check it out first." "No," Big Shaq said, removing his seatbelt. "I need to do this myself." Against all normal security protocols, he opened his door and stepped into the rain. At 6'9", Big Shaq knew his size could be intimidating, so he hunched his shoulders slightly, trying to make himself look smaller as he approached. The cold rain soaked through his practice hoodie, but he barely noticed. As he got closer, he could see the woman clearly now. She looked young, maybe mid-20s, with dark circles under her eyes. When she spotted him approaching, panic flashed across her face. She quickly adjusted herself, trying to shield the baby from view of the stranger approaching. Big Shaq stopped a respectful distance away and raised his hand in a small wave. The woman stared back, recognition slowly replacing fear as she realized who was standing in the rain looking at her. He took a few more steps forward and gently tapped on the window. For a moment, he thought she might ignore him or maybe even try to start the car and drive away. Instead, after what felt like forever, she rolled the window down just a tiny crack. "Hey there," Big Shaq said softly, rain dripping from his face. "You two doing okay tonight?" The question hung in the air between them. A simple question that would change both their lives forever. The woman looked up at Big Shaq with tired eyes, sizing him up through the small crack in her window. Water dripped from his nose and chin as he stood there in the rain waiting. Behind her caution, he saw something else. Pride. "We're fine," she said, her voice barely audible over the rainfall. "Just taking a break before heading home." The baby in her arms fussed and let out a small cry. She gently bounced it, whispering soft words. Big Shaq noticed how thin her wrists looked as she adjusted the blanket around the child. "I'm Michael," he said, skipping his famous nickname. Sometimes being just a person worked better than being a celebrity. "Mind if I talk with you for a minute?" She hesitated, then rolled down the window another inch. The baby's cries grew louder. "Little one sounds hungry," Big Shaq said gently. The woman's eyes welled up, but she blinked the tears away quickly. "She's always hungry," she whispered, then seemed to regret saying it. "Listen," Big Shaq said, crouching down so he wasn't towering over her car. "I don't mean to bother you, but it's pouring rain, it's getting dark, and I just want to make sure you two are okay. "What's your name?" Rain ran down his face as he waited patiently. Rick was watching anxiously from the SUV, probably thinking his boss had lost his mind. She paused. "I'm Tina. And this is my daughter." "How old is she?" Big Shaq asked, smiling at the baby who had stopped crying to stare at the giant man outside their car. 8 months last week, Tina said, a hint of pride breaking through her caution. "She's beautiful," he said sincerely. "Listen, Tina, I hope you don't mind me asking, but are you staying here tonight? In the car?" The question hung in the air. For a moment, Big Shaq thought she might lie or tell him to mind his own business. Instead, her shoulders slumped slightly. "Just for tonight," she said. "We'll figure something out tomorrow." "How long have you been living in your car?" he asked quietly. She looked surprised at his directness, but something in his eyes must have told her he genuinely cared. 3 weeks, she admitted, her voice breaking. "I had an apartment, a good job too. Then my daughter got really sick. She needed surgery. I had to take time off work, used all my savings for the medical bills. By the time she was better, I'd lost my job, couldn't make rent." She stopped herself, embarrassed. "The shelters?" Big Shaq asked. "All full. They put me on a waiting list. Said it might be another week or 2. The baby started crying again, louder this time. Tina reached for a bottle in the cup holder, but it was empty. "I have family back home," she continued, "but they're struggling too. I didn't want to be a burden. I thought I could fix this myself, you know? I've got interviews lined up, just need to hold on a little longer." Big Shaq nodded, understanding the pride that kept people from asking for help. He'd seen it before in his own family. "When did you two last eat?" he asked. Tina looked away. "I had something this morning. I've been saving the formula for her." Big Shaq felt a knot form in his stomach. He thought about his own fridge at home, stocked with prepared meals, and the chef who would come tomorrow. The contrast was almost too much to bear. "Tina," he said, his voice firm but kind, "I know we just met, and I know this might sound strange, but I want to help. Not just for tonight, but really help." She looked at him suspiciously. People had probably offered help before with strings attached. "Why?" she asked bluntly. "Why would you care?" The question was fair. Big Shaq thought about it for a moment, rain soaking through his clothes. "Because someone helped my mom once, when she was struggling with me and my brothers," he said finally. "And because I can. Please let me do something." The baby's cries grew more insistent. Tina looked at her daughter, then back at the famous basketball player standing in the rain, offering help with no cameras around, no publicity team, just a human being seeing another human being in trouble. Slowly, she rolled the window all the way down. 20 minutes later, Big Shaq stood in the lobby of the Pinewood Hotel, water dripping from his clothes onto the shiny marble floor. The night manager kept glancing at him, clearly recognizing the famous basketball player but trying to be professional about it. Tina stood beside him, clutching her baby close to her chest. She looked out of place in the fancy hotel, wearing a faded hoodie and jeans that had seen better days. The baby had finally settled down after Big Shaq had stopped at a gas station to get formula, diapers, and a few other essentials. "I can't accept this," Tina whispered as the manager processed the credit card Big Shaq had handed over. "It's too much." "It's just a room," Big Shaq said simply. But they both knew it wasn't just a room. It was a door opening to something more. The manager returned with a key card. "Suite 412 is ready, Mr. Richardson. Will there be anything else you need tonight?" Big Shaq turned to Tina. "Anything you need?" She shook her head, overwhelmed. The baby squirmed in her arms, and for the first time that night, Tina smiled a little. "Maybe some extra towels?" "Of course," the manager nodded. "I'll have them sent right up." As they rode the elevator to the 4th floor, Big Shaq noticed Tina taking deep breaths, like she couldn't quite believe what was happening. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, and he led the way down the hallway, finding suite 412 near the end. The room was nicer than Tina had expected. A small living area with a couch and TV, a bedroom with a king-size bed, and a bathroom with a tub big enough for her to actually stretch out in. She stood in the doorway, holding her baby, unable to move further in. "This is too fancy," she said quietly. Big Shaq gently placed the bags of supplies on the coffee table. It's just a place to sleep, he said. And it's yours for 2 weeks, paid in full, no strings attached. Tina's eyes widened. 2 weeks? I thought maybe just tonight. Big Shaq shook his head. 2 weeks gives you time to breathe, to figure things out without worrying about where you'll sleep each night. A knock at the door announced room service. Big Shaq had ordered a hot meal while they were checking in. The server wheeled in a cart covered with silver domes, nodded respectfully, and left after Big Shaq tipped him generously. You should eat while it's hot, Big Shaq said, lifting one of the domes to reveal a plate of roast chicken, vegetables, and potatoes. The smell filled the room, and Tina's stomach growled loudly. She carefully placed her baby on the big bed, surrounding her with pillows so she wouldn't roll off, then sat down at the table. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the fork. I haven't had a hot meal in, she paused. I can't even remember. Big Shaq sat across from her, but didn't touch the food. This was for her. Eat, he encouraged. We can talk after. As Tina ate, Big Shaq pulled out his phone and made a few calls, speaking quietly by the window. The rain had stopped, and the city lights twinkled in the distance. When he finished his calls, he turned back to find Tina watching him, her plate nearly empty. I talked to some people, he said, sitting down again. Tomorrow morning, someone from my foundation is going to come by. Her name's Lisa, and she helps families who are going through tough times. Your foundation? Tina asked. Big Shaq nodded. We help people get back on their feet, with jobs, housing, whatever they need. Tina put down her fork. I don't want charity. I can work. I was an office manager before everything fell apart. I just need a chance. It's not charity, Big Shaq said firmly. It's an opportunity. And I know you'll make the most of it. He pulled a business card from his wallet and wrote his personal number on the back. I want you to call me anytime if you need anything, day or night. Tina took the card, her fingers brushing against his. Why are you doing all this for us? You don't even know me. Big Shaq looked at the baby sleeping peacefully on the bed, then back at Tina. Sometimes people just need someone to notice them, he said quietly. Someone to stop and say, I see you. A tear slid down Tina's cheek. For the first time in weeks, she felt something she'd almost forgotten, hope. Big Shaq couldn't sleep that night. He kept seeing Tina's face, the mixture of pride and desperation in her eyes. He thought about her baby, so tiny and innocent, born into circumstances not of her choosing. Around 3 a.m, still wide awake, he made a decision. This wouldn't be just another celebrity photo op or quick charity moment. He would help Tina build a real life, the kind that wouldn't fall apart the next time trouble came. The next day, after morning practice, Big Shaq headed straight to his foundation's office downtown. The staff looked surprised to see him. Usually he just called in or attended the quarterly meetings. Today was different. We need to talk about housing programs, he told the director, a no-nonsense woman named Gloria, who'd been running the foundation since Big Shaq started it 5 years ago. Gloria raised an eyebrow. Any particular reason? Big Shaq told her about Tina and the baby. Gloria listened without interrupting, jotting notes in her ever-present notebook. Medical bills, Gloria said when he finished. That's how it happens to so many people. One emergency and everything falls apart. Can we help her? Big Shaq asked. Gloria smiled. That's literally what we do here, boss. But I'm glad to see you taking a personal interest. Over the next few days, while Tina and her baby settled into the hotel room, Big Shaq's team worked behind the scenes. Gloria assigned a caseworker named Wendy to meet with Tina daily. They helped her get copies of her resume, bought her a few professional outfits for interviews, and arranged for childcare so she could attend job interviews without worrying about her baby. When Big Shaq learned about Tina's outstanding medical bills, nearly $40,000, he made a quiet call to the hospital's billing department. By that afternoon, the bills were marked paid in full. A week after their first meeting, Big Shaq visited Tina at the hotel. The difference was striking. She looked rested, her hair neatly styled, wearing one of the new outfits the foundation had provided. The baby looked healthier too, with chubby cheeks and bright eyes. I got a job interview tomorrow, Tina said proudly as they sat in the hotel's cafe. It's for an office manager position at a physical therapy clinic. That's great, Big Shaq said, genuinely happy for her. How do you feel about it? Nervous, she admitted. It's been a while since I've done an interview. But Wendy helped me prepare. She even did a practice interview with me yesterday. The baby cooed from her carrier, reaching for a spoon on the table. She seems happier, Big Shaq noted. Tina smiled. Amazing what regular meals and a warm place to sleep will do. Her smile faded slightly. But the hotel stay ends next week. Wendy's been helping me look for apartments, but even the cheap ones want first and last month's rent plus security deposit. That's like $3,000 I don't have. Big Shaq nodded thoughtfully. Let me make a few calls. That afternoon, he contacted an old teammate who had retired and gone into real estate. The man owned several apartment buildings across the city, including some affordable housing units. I need a decent 2-bedroom for a single mom and her baby, Big Shaq explained. Something safe, clean, close to bus lines. I might have something, his friend said. It's not fancy, but it's in a good neighborhood. Building has other single parents, even a daycare on the first floor. Perfect, Big Shaq said. And I'm paying the first year's rent up front. His friend whistled. That's generous, man. It's not about being generous, Big Shaq replied. It's about giving someone enough time to stand on their own. The next day, while Tina was at her job interview, Big Shaq and a small team from his foundation visited the apartment. They had it cleaned professionally, then stocked the kitchen with groceries. They brought in basic furniture, a table with chairs, a couch, beds for Tina and the baby, dresses for their clothes. Big Shaq personally hung curtains in the windows and made sure the bathroom had fresh towels. In the baby's room, he arranged stuffed animals on a shelf and hung a mobile above the crib. He wanted it to feel like a home, not a charity project. As he placed a framed photo of Tina and her baby on the side table, a picture Wendy had taken at the hotel, Big Shaq smiled. This was just the beginning. Tina stood frozen in the doorway of the apartment, her mouth open in shock. Her baby gurgled happily in her arms, reaching toward the sunlight streaming through the clean windows. This is for us, she whispered. Big Shaq stood back, letting her take it all in. All yours. For a whole year, no rent to worry about. Tina took a few steps inside, touching the couch, the kitchen table, the curtains as if making sure they were real. Tears filled her eyes. I got the job, she said suddenly, turning to face him. The one at the clinic. They offered it to me right after the interview. Big Shaq broke into a huge smile. That's fantastic. When do you start? Monday, Tina said, bouncing her baby gently. The pay is good, and they have health insurance. And the clinic director said they can be flexible with my hours because of the baby. This was what Big Shaq had hoped for, not just giving her things, but helping her build a life she could sustain on her own. Still, he knew from experience with his foundation that housing and a job weren't always enough. There's something else I want to talk to you about, he said, sitting down at the kitchen table. He gestured for Tina to join him. I've seen a lot of people get back on their feet, then stumble again when something unexpected happens, he explained. I want to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Tina looked at him cautiously. What do you mean? I've arranged for you to meet with a financial advisor. Someone who can help you create a budget, start saving, maybe even fix your credit score over time. Tina shifted uncomfortably. I don't know anything about finance stuff. Never had enough money to worry about it before. That's exactly why it's important, Big Shaq said gently. My mom never learned about money management when I was growing up. We'd have money, then it would be gone. It was a constant cycle. He pulled out his phone and showed her a picture of an older woman with kind eyes. This is Mrs. Chen. She volunteers with the foundation. She teaches a class called Finance for Real Life. No fancy terms, just practical stuff about how to make your money work for you. The baby started fussing, and Tina stood up to walk her around the room. She seemed to be thinking. Okay, she said finally. I'll meet with her. But I don't want any more handouts. I need to do this myself. Big Shaq nodded, understanding her pride. It's not a handout. It's a skill, like learning to drive or use a computer. You can't know what nobody ever taught you. Later that week, Big Shaq arranged something else. A dinner at a local community center for single parents. He introduced Tina to 4 other moms who had gone through similar struggles. One had been homeless after leaving an abusive relationship. Another had lost everything in a house fire. Each had rebuilt their lives with help from the foundation. "We meet once a month," explained a woman named Diane, who now owned her own cleaning business. "Sometimes we just vent about kid stuff. Sometimes we help each other with practical things, like swapping babysitting so we can go to job interviews or doctor appointments." As Tina listened to their stories, something shifted in her expression. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. These women understood what she'd been through in a way that even well-meaning people like Big Shaq couldn't. By the end of the evening, she exchanged phone numbers with all of them and agreed to bring her famous potato salad to the next gathering. Walking her back to her apartment, Big Shaq noticed the change in her posture. She stood taller, more confident. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "my foundation can provide money and opportunities, but what you found tonight, that connection with people who understand your journey, that's something no amount of money can buy." Tina nodded, her baby sleeping peacefully on her shoulder. "For so long, I felt invisible, like I was screaming for help and nobody heard me." She looked up at the tall basketball player. "Then you saw me." "Sometimes," Big Shaq said quietly, "the most important thing we can do for someone is just notice they're there." 3 months flew by. The seasons changed. Trees outside Tina's apartment bloomed with spring flowers, and her baby learned to crawl, chasing after toys across the living room floor with determined little hands and knees. Tina thrived at her new job. Her boss at the physical therapy clinic often commented on her organizational skills and the way patients loved talking to her at the front desk. She'd already received a small raise and was managing the clinic's schedule like she'd been there for years. Big Shaq checked in regularly, sometimes just with a text message, other times stopping by with little gifts for the baby, books, educational toys, or clothes. He never brought expensive things, understanding that Tina's pride was as important to protect as her financial stability. One warm Saturday in May, Big Shaq pulled up to Tina's apartment building in his SUV. This wasn't a regular visit. He'd called ahead, asking if she and the baby would join him for a surprise. Curious, Tina had agreed. "Where are we going?" she asked as she secured the baby's car seat in the back of his vehicle. "You'll see," Big Shaq said with a mysterious smile. "But I think you'll like it." 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a small brick building with a sign that read Bright Futures Daycare and Early Learning Center. Tina looked confused. "I thought we might check this place out," Big Shaq explained. "It's run by a woman who used to work for my foundation. They have a scholarship program for working parents." Tina frowned slightly. "Daycare is expensive." "I've been looking into it, but even with my job, it would take most of my paycheck." "That's why we're here," Big Shaq said gently. "The scholarship would cover 75% of the cost. You'd only pay what you can afford." Inside, the center was bright and cheerful. Children's artwork decorated the walls, and the sound of laughter drifted from different rooms. A woman named Ms. Pat greeted them, not treating Big Shaq any differently than any other parent considering the center for their child. As they toured the facility, Tina's baby reached for the colorful toys and gurgled happily at the other children. Ms. Pat explained their curriculum, even for babies, how they focused on development through play, reading, and music. "We serve healthy meals and snacks," Ms. Pat explained, showing them the kitchen where a cook was preparing lunch. "And we have extended hours for parents who work different shifts." By the end of the tour, Tina was quiet, deep in thought. "You don't have to decide right now," Big Shaq assured her as they walked back to the car. "It's not that," Tina said softly. "It's just, 6 months ago I was living in my car, worrying if my baby would even survive. Now I'm touring daycare centers and thinking about her education." She shook her head in disbelief. "Sometimes it doesn't feel real." "But it is real," Big Shaq said. "You made it real. You took the opportunity and ran with it." On the drive back, Tina made a decision. "I want to apply for the scholarship program. My baby deserves the best start possible." Big Shaq smiled. "I'll have them send you the paperwork." The following weekend brought another milestone. Big Shaq arrived at Tina's apartment with his toolbox and a few friends from the team. They spent the day putting together shelves, hanging pictures, and even building a small garden box for her tiny balcony. "You can grow vegetables," explained one of the players as he filled the box with soil. Nothing tastes better than tomatoes you grew yourself. Tina worked alongside them, learning how to use a drill, laughing when she hung a picture frame crooked the first time. By evening, her apartment truly felt like a home, not just a place she was staying, but somewhere she belonged. After the others left, Tina and Big Shaq sat on the balcony drinking lemonade. The baby had fallen asleep after all the excitement. "I opened a savings account," Tina said suddenly. "Mrs. Chen helped me set it up. I put a little bit away from each paycheck." "That's great," Big Shaq nodded, genuinely proud. "What are you saving for?" Tina looked out at the sunset, thinking. "At first, I was just saving for emergencies. But now, I'm thinking maybe someday I could buy a small house. Something with a yard where my daughter can play." She smiled. "Mrs. Chen says I need to work on my credit score first, but in a few years, it might be possible." "It's definitely possible," Big Shaq agreed. Tina turned to look at him. "When you found us that night in the parking lot, did you ever imagine we'd be sitting here talking about me buying a house someday?" Big Shaq smiled. "I didn't know what would happen. I just knew I had to stop." "Thank you," Tina said simply. "Not just for the help, but for seeing me as someone worth helping." "You know what I see now?" Big Shaq asked. "What?" "I see someone who doesn't need my help anymore." And that's the best part of this whole story. 1 year later, on a bright Saturday morning, Tina stood nervously in front of a small crowd gathered in the community center. Her daughter, now almost 2 years old, sat in the front row on Big Shaq's lap, clapping her hands excitedly whenever she caught her mother's eye. "I'm not good at public speaking," Tina began, her voice shaky but determined. "But some stories need to be told." The room fell quiet as she shared her journey, the medical bills that cost her everything, the nights spent in her car with her baby, and the chance encounter with a basketball star that changed everything. She didn't paint herself as a victim or Big Shaq as a superhero. Instead, she spoke about second chances and the power of someone simply noticing another person's struggle. "Today, I have a good job, a home, and savings in the bank," she said proudly. "My daughter is thriving at daycare, and next fall, I'm starting night classes to get my business degree." She paused, looking around the room. "But the most important thing I gained wasn't material. It was hope, and that's what I want to give back." The crowd applauded as Tina announced the launch of Parking Lot Angels, a new program within Big Shaq's foundation specifically focused on helping families on the edge of homelessness. The initiative would provide emergency housing, job placement, childcare assistance, and financial education, all the things that had helped Tina rebuild her life. What made the program unique was its approach. It wasn't just another charity giving handouts. It was building a community of people who had faced similar struggles, creating networks of support that would last long after the immediate crisis passed. After the presentation, people gathered around a table filled with refreshments. Tina's famous potato salad had its own special spot, alongside cookies she baked with her daughter the night before. Big Shaq watched from across the room as Tina spoke with a young father who had recently lost his job. The man had his young son on his shoulders, and Tina was writing down his information, already connecting him with resources before he finished his first cup of punch. "She's a natural," said Gloria, coming to stand beside Big Shaq. "The foundation needs to hire her officially." "Already offered," Big Shaq smiled. "She starts part-time next month, working around her regular job until she finishes her degree." Gloria nodded approvingly. "You know, when you first told me about finding her in that parking lot, I never expected things to go this far." Big Shaq watched as Tina's daughter toppled over to him, arms raised to be picked up. He swung her into the air, making her giggle. "Neither did I," he admitted. "I just knew I had to do something." Later that evening, after the event was over, Tina and Big Shaq sat on a bench outside the community center while her daughter chased a butterfly across the lawn. The reporter from the newspaper asked if you were going to talk about this on your TV interviews next week. Tina said, "About finding me, about the new program." Big Shaq had a major championship game coming up, and the media attention was intense. Every interview was a chance to promote something. "I told him no," Big Shaq said simply. Tina looked surprised. "But this could help the foundation raise more money, get more support for Parking Lot Angels. Some things aren't meant for the spotlight," he explained. "What happened that night in the parking lot, that was just two human beings connecting. Not a celebrity and a charity case, Just people. Tina nodded, understanding. You know, my daughter asked about you the other day. She wanted to know if you were part of our family. What did you tell her? Big Shaq asked, watching the little girl who had come so far from that night in the car. I told her that family isn't always about who's related to you. Sometimes it's about who shows up when you need them most. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched the little girl playing in the fading sunlight. 5 families, Tina said after a while. That's how many we've already helped through Parking Lot Angels. 5 families who won't have to sleep in their cars or wonder where their next meal is coming from. And there'll be more, Big Shaq promised. All because you noticed us that night, Tina mused. Big Shaq shook his head. No. All because you were brave enough to roll down your window and accept help. That takes more courage than anything I've ever done on a basketball court. As they sat there watching the sunset, Big Shaq thought about how life worked in unexpected ways. He had set out to help one family that rainy night, never imagining that it would grow into something that would help hundreds. The smallest actions, noticing someone in need, stopping instead of driving by, offering help with dignity. These could create ripples that stretched far beyond what anyone could predict. And sometimes those ripples became waves of change.